everybody. Welcome back to the Misfits and Mysteries podcast. It's a weekly podcast where we take you through everything wacky and weird, from Bigfoot and aliens to psychology and history and ghosts and everything in between. We are your hosts, Emmy
and Steve.
So, Steve, we had a very interesting conversation that we're gonna
today
for our listeners.
Yeah, we have an interview with Brian from Ghost Quest. Brian Weaver, I believe his last name is. But before that, we have a fun Bigfoot topic that it's a little outdated, but it's a fun story that Emmy is not knowing anything about, so it's gonna be new to her. Yeah. And after the interview, we're gonna wrap things up with some fun hypotheticals. And yeah.
Perfect.
So I guess let's get going with the Bigfoot story. So
we're just gonna dive right in.
We're gonna dive right in. So this is something that I learned about a few years ago, but this information just was in my head and was useless because I had no one to really tell or no reason to talk about it. But there's this
excited.
There's this great YouTube channel I watch. I gotta plug them, called Internet Today. I love those guys. They make incredible content. They have this segment called Weekly Weird News every week, where they just compile like the weirdest headlines and weirdest stories. And that's all they talk about for like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how much weird stuff happened that week. And that's my favorite news of the week, is just finding out the weirdest stuff. So basically, you should go like and subscribe. They have great content. But basically, back in 2018, there was a congressional race for, I think it was the 5th district of Virginia, between Democrat Leslie Cockburn and Republican Denver Riggleman.
That Cockburn is such a tough name if you're a politician.
Oh, yeah, it gets worse, too. So Leslie Cockburn accuses Denver Riggleman not only campaigning with a white supremacist, but for basically masturbating to Bigfoot erotica. And this wasn't and this claim wasn't out of nowhere. There are multiple images of Bigfoot drawn with a giant schlong just on his Instagram. And there's even one of him with his face photoshopped on top of it, on top of Bigfoot's face. So
this is on his public Instagram page?
Well, no longer, but luckily Leslie Cockburn's Twitter screenshots still exist, and I'm going to retweet them because I want this to go.
My gosh.
Yeah, so Denver Riggleman is currently the congressman for I think it's the 5th district of Virginia, and he's really, really, really into Bigfoot and Bigfoot porn. And basically, he had this interview where he tried to dispel it, and he unconvincingly said that it was just a joke for him and his army buddies, that he has multiple photos of Bigfoot and his giant dick.
So is that the only evidence?
Oh, no, he's working on a book called The Mating Habits of Bigfoot, and he's co-authored another book about Bigfoot titled Bigfoot Exterminator, Inc., the partially cautionary, mostly true tale of Monster Hunt 2006. It's like as if we know when he went hunting for Bigfoot with his buddies. So the guy denies that he's into Bigfoot porn, but he's posted 2 photos of Bigfoot with his giant dick on his personal social media. And this became a real scandal in an election. The guy somehow won still.
Oh my God.
And basically in other interviews, so in all the interviews where he went to dispel it, he unconvincingly said, oh, it was just a joke with my army buddies. But then he would go into tangents about all the different theories about Bigfoot. And then he tried to justify it by saying that he wanted Bigfoot supporters to be able to believe whichever theory they'd like. It's like, okay, seems like you're talking around it. And then my absolute favorite 2 things I learned from from some interviews and additional research is, at one point he was writing a book about how JFK actually got assassinated because he learned too much about Bigfoot.
No way.
But he never finished it. And then apparently
it's like a major conspiracy.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, it was a novel. It was a fictitious novel, right?
Oh, okay. That's a little bit better, but
it's a little better, but yeah, he never finished it, which is a shame. And then apparently, this is my favorite thing ever. He admitted proudly that on his wedding anniversary, he surprised his wife with night vision goggles and forced her to go Bigfoot hunting with her, and she was not happy about that.
Well, he was probably looking for a third.
I know, right?
Get his wife out there.
Yeah, so Denver Riggleman, congressman, into Bigfoot erotica and Bigfoot in general.
That is so she came what is her name? Leslie? The other candidate?
Cockburn. Yeah.
How could I forget? Leslie Cockburn. So she came right out in the campaign and said he's into Bigfoot porn. Like that.
And she just posted screenshots from his from his Instagram. So it wasn't even slander. It was just like facts.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a theory that he might actually not be in. So maybe he doesn't jack off to Bigfoot porn, but based on the fact that he photoshopped his head on a Bigfoot with a giant dick, there's another hypothesis that maybe he actually role plays as Bigfoot.
Oh no. That is so bad.
I know. And I just feel like this is something that needs to be brought back up. I think it's hysterical. And we should never forget that Denver Riggleman is into Bigfoot penis.
Need to resurface. I just can't believe someone who is looking to get elected to public office would have that on their Instagram page.
He doesn't anymore, but he did.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's into that, I would think you'd keep it under wraps a little bit.
I know, not public. I guess another thing that something we've discussed in the past that made me think about is why are there never female Bigfoots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are there not? I mean, there have to be if there are
big feet exist.
Feet? Yeah. Big feet? Is that plural?
Yeah.
Like, do they have little families?
I don't know, but I just think it's really funny. My other question is, so if Denver Riggleman thinks that all Bigfoots have like foot-long dicks, why have we never seen one's penis? We have a lot of blurry photos. You think that if they had like a fire hose, you'd see that thing.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because I actually recently listened to this podcast about this man who had like a frozen Bigfoot, and he would like bring it around carnivals, and of course it just happened to get frozen with its hands over its crotch so you couldn't see. So maybe it is.
If it's frozen, there's a lot of shrinkage too. That could explain a lot.
True. That's true. This thing was later found to be made out of rubber or something, but that's less exciting.
Yeah, that's really funny though. But yeah, so I guess there's not much more to say, but yeah,
I love that. That's hysterical.
District of Virginia, never forget that your congressman likes Bigfoot pornography.
Is that the current congressman?
Oh yeah, he's currently in charge.
Currently in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, you can't have someone in Cockburn in charge.
I'm interested. Is that her married name? Or is that her maiden name?
I don't know. I think that's married name.
Because if that's your married name, like, why wouldn't you just keep your current last name?
That's a really good point. Unless her real last name is a lot worse.
I'm Googling her right now. Leslie Cockburn is an American investigative journalist and filmmaker.
She ran for office too.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
We're gonna retweet her. I'm excited.
That is really exciting. Wow.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll get into the interview now. And now a quick break for a word from our sponsor, Anchor. Anchor is one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. It's what we personally use to make our podcast, the Misfits and Mysteries podcast. It's one of our favorites because it's super easy to use and it's free.
They even have creation tools that let you record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, which has been awesome for us because we're not experts, but they make it super easy.
Another great thing about Anchor is that they distribute your podcast for you, so you don't have to go through the hassle of uploading your RSS feed individually to every single podcast hosting service out there. They get you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, pretty much anywhere you can listen to podcasts.
And you can start making money from your podcast right away with absolutely no minimum listenership, which has been great for us.
And what's awesome is this is a tool that's super useful. Everything you need to make a professional podcast, you can find in one easy-to-use place.
So download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started.
So now let's get back to business.
Back to business.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Misfits and Mysteries podcast. We have a very special guest on here today, going to be talking to Brian Weaver. He's the founder and creator of GhostQuest.net, which is one of the internet's largest databases for haunted locations. So welcome, Brian, and thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Brian, I understand that you recently released a book about haunted locations in New York State. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So yeah, I recently published my first book. It's called The Folklore and Haunted Locations Guide, New York. I published that in June. It contains over 300 allegedly true haunted locations throughout the state of New York, from the bigger cities to some of the more rural upstate locations and stuff like that. And yeah, I remember Steve went over it, and you guys are from New York, right?
Yeah, we're from different parts of New York. So
yeah, so it's good to see what you guys think of it. But yeah, so I go through the history of these locations, as well as some of the alleged paranormal phenomena that people experience there. And I give like the addresses and the GPS coordinates for some of the ones, like they're out in the middle of the woods. I have to use like Google Earth and just go searching for them. So yeah, so I'm planning to do one for each state, and hopefully I'll have one eventually for all 50.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You could probably do that, because even though Rhode Island's tiny, there are quite a few haunted places.
Yeah, New England has a lot of them. I'm from New Hampshire, and I live in rural Vermont now. But I mean, even just driving to the store, we go by a few places that I've already got on my list. Sorry for that background noise.
No worries.
Just knocked something over.
No worries at all.
So, Brian, I'm interested how you landed on New York State if you're from New Hampshire.
Sure. Okay, yeah. So originally with my database, I started going alphabetically through states. So I started with the A states and started working my way up. And so initially this started off as just an internet database project. I was never really intending to do a book series and a YouTube series and all this other stuff I've kind of landed myself into. So basically what happened was that's pretty much where I was at in my list when a friend of mine who was getting into publishing suggested that I publish my books. And I kind of decided if I was going to do that, I was going to have to really step my game up. So I took a really long time doing the research and the writing for New York. As compared to like some of my other pages, the descriptions are a little more brief, but going forward, they're going to be a lot more detailed, like they are in my book. So yeah, long story short, that's just kind of where I was, and yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
So I guess one of the things we're sort of wondering is, I know I know when we were chatting, you said you haven't really visited a ton of these places, but when you're doing your research. What do you sort of look for, and how do you find out about these places? Because
sure.
I've looked in the past. My friends and I have jokingly said we should go ghost hunting, and then I just didn't even know where to search to find the information about it. We just sort of press pass and like abandoned house.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I do have a disclaimer on my website saying that, get permission first and be careful if you're going to abandoned places and all that stuff. So, I'm sorry, what was the question?
I guess like sort of how do you go about your research process for these places?
Yeah, so most of it, actually all of it is done online pretty much. So what I do is when I start with the state, I look at the biggest cities in that state and the most historical ones. And I just type into Google like haunted places, New York City or whatever. And a lot of places will come up with like a list of the top 20, and then I'll write those down, and then I'll Google search each one individually to get the history. And then I'll Google search it with the word haunted after it. And, there'll be like Reddit stories and, all kinds of other stuff. So Usually for each location that I research, I have like between 10 and 15 tabs open in my browser at once to just, like findagrave.com to get like the death dates. And there's a lot of information to track down. So it's, it's a process. And actually, if you see some of my pages that I haven't expanded on yet, you'll notice that it's just a bulleted list, no information, no address, no nothing, because, I've been doing this for almost 5 years now, maybe over 5. Yeah, almost 5 years. Yeah. And this is as far as I've gotten. Like, I've put a ton of work into it, but unfortunately there just isn't enough hours in the day to have written all of this material yet. But
right.
It's definitely getting there. So I start with a bulleted list, and then I go back and I get all the details and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
And a lot of times my users will be like, "Hey, good site, but you forgot about this place in my home state that everyone knows about," or whatever. And so usually I will validate those claims on Google, and then I'll add the location.
Well, if you need a haunted location, I'm pretty sure that lamp's haunted because it turns on all the time.
Oh, we have some like that in our house too.
Yeah.
Just put down Steve's lamp.
I'm pretty sure my neighbors just have the same like type of remote.
Oh.
And it's just an infrared issue. But
on the frequency.
It is so inconvenient when the
boy.
fan just turns on, especially when the AC was on. So you get just really cold. Like constantly hitting the off button, but couldn't be haunted.
Yeah, and I bet they're doing the same thing. They're like, every time I turn the fan on, someone turns it off.
I know. I think we're having a war. We just don't know about it yet.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
Well, after, taking a look at your book, you can really tell how comprehensive all of your research is and everything.
Yeah.
And Steve and I were talking about this before. There's a number of places that we've been to or we've heard of, including the college that Steve and I went to, where we became friends.
I went to a haunted college too.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, Keene State College in New Hampshire, but I didn't know it was haunted at the time until I wrote my website.
That's cool. I mean, we're probably gonna bleep out the name just because we don't want people to know who we are. But
right.
And
okay,
I did know it was haunted. There's definitely a ghost down in.
Oh yeah, okay. I do remember that name, but I can't remember the details about it.
Yeah, no. I mean, even if there wasn't, that place had a basement that ghosts definitely would live in. So
Yep. It was the same at my college. You could some areas just felt weird, and some of the buildings are so old and historic that it's like you just get a weird vibe from going around there.
Yeah. I mean, there's graveyards.
I actually had a friend who worked at the college, and later he told me that he would have some weird stuff happen to him when he was a custodian, so he would work there at night, and he'd say stuff would fall off shelves randomly and just weird noises and stuff. He'd get creeps from it. So yeah.
Well, I also have, I just made a short list here, but my high school is also on your list.
Oh boy.
So really just hitting up all of the haunted schools.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've got 2 places that I've stayed in, including one place where I had my very first ghost encounter ever.
That's your story last week.
We actually talked about it during our podcast.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'll check that out. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
And
the place...
sorry to interrupt you real quick here, but also on my website, I have a user comments and submission form. So if you go to my ghostquest.net/haunted New York page and you've been to one of those locations, you can share your story or see if other people have had a similar experience. Share your YouTube videos if you've made a YouTube video about that place, and people who go to my site will maybe come across your channel. So it's in addition to being a database, I want it to be kind of more of an open resource for the community as well. So sorry to interrupt there, but
that's awesome. Great to know too. Yeah. So I was just thinking about all the places that I've been to. So, it's interesting. Some of these places I knew were haunted and others were, it kind of makes sense, but I wasn't sure. So
It's
Yeah,
interesting to find out that, like, you know, the weird place that you go to every day, you're right there.
yeah, we lost the phone a little bit.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it's weird to think about. It's like, you know, places you drive by every day, or like, you know, place where I went to college 3 days a week, you know, there's ghost stories there. It's fascinating to know the history, and, you know, even if it's not a true story, it's still interesting, and it still tells us something, I think, about history and about, you know, our psychology and stuff. So,
Right.
One of the places I thought was interesting is I had a job in Lewiston, New York, which is like near
mhm,
Buffalo.
yeah.
And after work on Fridays, we go drink at this bar. And I had no
Uh-huh.
idea that the house right next door was like a murder house that's
Oh,
super haunted. I
oh
had no idea.
goodness.
There was like a
Yeah,
placard, but I never read it because
right,
I
right.
was like, we went
Yeah.
to the bar, we had some drinks, then I drove home, and
Oh
just,
boy.
yeah, I was like, I had no idea.
Just kidding.
No, I
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
drunk. We had like a drinker, we had like a beer, and then
no, I know, I know. I'm just giving you sass because I
yeah,
can. I don't
but
know.
it was like I had no idea that place was haunted next to me.
Yeah, it's crazy, and maybe even the bar was too. If it's like an older
No,
bar.
it was a really nice looking new. It looked
Oh,
like
okay.
it looked like it was made like 20 years before I got there. So I don't think that
Gotcha.
haunted. But
Yeah, a
the place
lot of
next
the
door.
bars, they have history about the American alcohol prohibition, and a lot of like murders, mysteries are revolving around that time era. Well, like there's a lot of haunted bars because they didn't want to shut down when America outlawed alcohol, and they just kept
Mhm.
doing activities, and, you know, it became a black market thing, and, you know,
Yeah,
gangsters and all that.
I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
about ghosts, but just sort of tangentially related. The
Mm,
Matt's Brewery in Utica, they make Saranac and I guess
okay.
Utica Club. They
Hmm.
just never shut down during Prohibition.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so
So there's probably, I mean, I
there's probably
don't
a
know that
murder
place off the,
associated with it. But yeah,
yeah, I don't know it off the top of my head, but you got to think a lot of times other illegal activities like prostitution and, you know, all kinds of stuff accompanied that, you
Mhm.
know, you're an outlaw essentially. So
Yeah.
it's anything goes.
Right. So, Brian, you mentioned earlier that your college was haunted. Is that kind of how you
Yeah.
got into this, or were you interested
Um,
before?
Well, it was around that time when I started getting interested. It was around my late teen years when I was getting into college and stuff. I had some friends who would watch those ghost TV shows, and they'd be like, "Oh, I know a haunted place. Let's just, you know, have a few beers, go check it out." This is like 2008 ish, so,
Mhm.
you know, take the flip phone and see what happens. And and that was really interesting because it got me reading, like, you know, researching like places near me, and it was just, it wasn't so much that I had an experience, but reading about the experiences people had in the places that I see every day, and then getting into the history and, the unsolved mystery of the whole thing. It was really just so interesting to me that behind what you see every day, there's like this shadow world of just macabre kind of stuff that nobody hears about. And
Right.
I love stuff like that. I mean, I love like true crime stuff, and so it all just made sense. And really, what pushed me to make the website was that I wanted to read more, but there just wasn't quite the resource I was looking for. So I ended up starting to write it myself. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
right,
It doesn't
Yeah.
exist. Create it yourself.
yeah, yeah. And
Well, I
I hope
would definitely
I hope people
encourage all of our listeners to check it out because
Oh yeah,
again,
for sure.
it's super comprehensive and
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And if I don't have info for your particular state, you know, if you're a listener right now and you click on your state, you'll definitely find a bulleted list, and, you know, you might have to research some of these yourself, but eventually I will get there, and I'll have it all for you, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Have you?
Right.
I imagine you have. Have you done any research on? Is it the Remington House? Is that the one where the
The-
lady went
The
crazy because she had so much guilt? Because
Yeah,
her
the
husband-
Winchester
Oh, Winchester.
house, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the
Not
Winchester
Remington.
rifles.
Yeah. Winchester.
Yeah, so that's in California, and I have not written about California yet, but I have researched that location a little bit. And yeah, basically what you said is Sarah Winchester. She was the wife of, oh God, I can't remember his name, but the guy who,
Is it Henry?
It might be. I don't know. There's so many generic names from that
Doesn't really matter.
period. It might have been like James. I don't know.
There was like 5 names back then, so
yeah, pretty much. So
just say one, it's probably right.
Yeah, and if we're right, we'll all play the lottery tonight, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly.
But yeah, basically what you said, she felt a lot of guilt because her husband had created the Winchester Repeating Arms Manufacturing Company, I believe it was called, and when he died, she believed that it was a curse because, you know, the ghosts of the people who were killed with those rifles were haunting her. And they were used a lot in the not colonization, but, you know, when when we expanded out into the West, it was used a lot in confrontation with the natives. And, you know, I can understand the feeling of having blood on your hand and the guilt with that. It's like we weren't really fighting an enemy. We were kind of just killing people for, you know, greed purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so the curse was that when she consulted a medium, she was told that the ghosts wanted her to keep building rooms on her house so that all the ghosts she had killed could live there, I guess. And she thought she was kind of making amends for, you know,
was it to
tragedy.
live there, or so they couldn't get her? So I thought there were a lot of like fake rooms, like fake doors.
Right. Yes, that is true. That could be possible. Yeah, it could be a combination of both. Because yeah, there's a lot of like trap stairways and stuff, and it's undetermined. Well, I personally don't know if it was because when she died, they immediately ceased construction because I'm pretty sure everyone around her probably thought it was insane.
Right.
So, you know, it's who knows if they intended to finish those places or if actually, you know, now that I think about it, I do remember reading something about, you know, traps that were put in for the spirits so that they'd get lost and confused and leave her alone, I guess.
Sounds like a good way to make a spirit mad.
Yeah, I know, right? Trap it in your house and confuse it all the time.
Probably find you no matter what. So
Yeah, exactly.
True. I mean, you'd think they could go through walls, probably.
yeah,
Probably.
you think so.
That'd be a cool place to visit, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'd love to check that place out.
I definitely, yeah. I believe they do tours during the daytime, and I think at night you can do investigations as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely on my bucket list. I would absolutely love to go to a lot of these places I write about.
Mm-hmm.
Even the lesser known ones, they're just fascinating. Like I went to a haunted castle in my home state of Vermont, actually a month ago today. And it was my first true investigation. Even just going to that location, it wasn't a super famous location, but it was still really interesting to learn about like the history of the family that built it, like all the stuff that happened there. It was just really interesting to go and look around, and they had all the objects on display going back to like the late 1800s. There was like a tea set that was gifted to the family by Queen Mary of England in 1912. Yeah, and it's just on display there. And like there was a chair that was crafted by an artisan from the Ming Dynasty, like in the 1500s, that is just there, and it's beautiful, ornate, polished wood, like dragon chair. It's like it's crazy, and it's just
that's
like
awesome.
Cool.
Just go and see the sights, even if you don't believe in the ghosts.
Right.
Which was
so
me.
What was it like? What was it like doing an investigation? What did that entail?
Well, it was really interesting. So I was invited by one of my friends who does a podcast that I met on Twitter. So it was really fun because I got to meet about 6 or 7 other people that I knew from Twitter that, you know, we all got to meet and hang out. And
awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool because we all got along so well. And then I had never been on an investigation before. So it was really cool to get to pick their brains and just see how their thought process works and like what their procedures were. Like, I'm going to set up a camera here for this reason with this device to check the temperature and maybe some trigger objects and whatever. And it
Mhm.
was really cool because we did get some weird experiences, some
Yeah,
weird
what
voices.
did you find?
Well, so the main ghost story is that the two original owners of the house, the wife died suddenly, and then the husband just moved away like 2 weeks later, and nobody ever heard from him. And so there's a lot of mystery surrounding that, and people really don't know, which is what made some of our evidence that we got so interesting, because we heard voices coming through the spirit box that we were using, saying like, you know, why are you here? And we heard a reply saying,
Oh, wow.
because I love Sarah and Sarah doesn't love me. And then the next part that we heard to me, yeah, well, the next part to me that made it all, because it's like, you know, you can pick up radio transmissions like from the radio. So, and I'm a major skeptic, so I'm very hesitant to pass anything off as evidence. But then we started getting a lot of swear words that were derogatory towards females, like, you know, bad words about women.
We can imagine.
Yeah, I go into it in a little detail in my blog. I say a few of the words, but not the real bad ones. And that to me, I was like, there's no way that somebody could be broadcasting that on the radio, because if it were a song, it would be bleeped out. And if a radio producer, like a DJ, were saying those words, he'd be fired. I would imagine. So, yeah. Yeah, it was weird. It was very strange. A few of the things we had, some people felt like they were getting touched. Oh boy, the haunted lamp.
Sorry, no, my chair just like gave out on me.
Oh boy.
Maybe
I've had those ones
something.
that lean back. Yeah. But
I gotta sit up straight now.
Yep, I know, right? Those lean back chairs, like you put the paddle in the right spot, but they never stay. I know
it just slid out.
Yeah, I use a big armchair now because it's like, I don't want to.
Yeah, well, that sounds really interesting to actually go in and see how that all works.
It was interesting, yeah, because I had never seen or observed any of the gear before. And it was interesting because, like, for example, I'll say there's the Necrophonics app that a lot of investigators use on their cell phone that I myself have always kind of rolled my eyes at when I see people use it on YouTube. But they explained to me, how it works. And it's actually, it does not use the microphone. It actually uses a database of phonetic sounds, meaning there's not even real words. You're just picking up sounds. And if they sound like a word, then, you know, it put a lot more validity into it, seeing how it works, because I'm a real skeptic. And I'm like, I also studied computer programming in college, so I know how easy it would be to kind of set up false positives and things that appear to be strange but actually aren't.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I got a lot of information all around. It was really cool experience.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean,
yeah.
I'm also skeptical, but I'm also of the mindset that I could be very wrong, and I don't. I'm not gonna put myself in a position to be proven wrong. Like, I'm not gonna go live in a murder house. I'm not gonna go like stay over in an asylum. I'm not gonna go into a. I don't care if like no one was killed in the asylum. I'm not going in an abandoned asylum. It's not happening.
Yeah. And as a sciencey person, it's like you have to acknowledge that it is very possible, and that people have theories that, or hypotheses, I suppose, that can't be proven. So they're not technically theories, but there are ways that connect the dots into, okay, well, we have a soul and energy can't be created or destroyed. So what happens? And, you know, people have theories, and I think it's just a matter of time before we discover the truth. And it's like, I really like to be open to any possibilities because it's much easier to prove it. It's very, very difficult from a scientific perspective to prove that something doesn't exist. Because, for example, if you say, you know, unicorns exist, if I were to tell you no, then I would have to have discovered the entire universe. If you believe in string theory, that there are other dimensions, it's just not possible. And to say, I know for a fact something doesn't exist, it's just not possible with our current spectrum of understanding. And I'd also like to point out that the universe is constantly expanding. So if you believe that, it's just, I like to let people believe what they want to believe.
Right.
For the most
and
part.
we've talked about the same thing in a different episode, Steve, with UFOs and aliens.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing, in my opinion, yeah.
I am of the opinion that aliens definitely exist. And I'm incredibly skeptical that they actually visited us, because why the hell
right.
to Earth? There's not much going on here for them. It's just risk.
Not these days.
No,
Maybe it's like a zoo. They just come here with their kids to watch the exotic animals.
Who's to say that they've evolved curiosity? Maybe they're hyper intelligent, but never even thought to investigate something just to learn. Maybe that's just not on their radar. You know? That's and it evolved here on Earth. It doesn't mean it evolves elsewhere.
Right. And I do believe, I do believe that there's, aliens somewhere, because, Big Bang Theory, if you think about it, we're probably not the first out of the Big Bang. We're probably not the last. We're probably somewhere in the middle, meaning there has to be planets and solar systems that are probably billions of years older than this one. And to think that no life ever evolved there would just kind of, in my opinion, I don't know. It's a lot of people don't grasp how freaking huge the universe is.
Right. Yeah. It's easy to get stuck in your little bubble.
Yeah.
Right.
No. So.
Definitely true.
Yeah.
I guess another thing too is just, it's the same idea with Bigfoot, I guess, or I don't really believe Bigfoot exists today, but I also don't think we can rule it out as something that didn't exist or overlap with us. Because
agreed. Yep.
According to UC Berkeley, this is when I was doing some research about the first blog I wrote. Only 10% of everything that's ever lived can possibly be fossilized.
Right.
So
wow.
The fact that we have Bigfoot stories on pretty much every culture or a variation, and we have fossils, doesn't mean that didn't exist. It just means that it probably definitely existed and overlapped with us. It's probably a hominin, and we probably outcompeted it or co-bred with it. And then it just didn't fossilize because it wasn't in an area where it could have fossilized. But I don't think there are big feet running around now.
Yeah. That makes sense. I actually did not know that about the fossilization thing that you just said. That's really interesting. And in my opinion, what is the quote? The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. It's like, I like to live by that, because there's honestly been some pretty convincing Bigfoot evidence. Like people will get concrete footprints that they fill in and stuff like that. But I'm kind of up in the air about those cryptids as well, because it's like, you'd think we'd have found them, but who knows, actually, honestly.
Yeah.
As a hiker, I can also attest to the vastness of the woods up in the Northeast. So who knows?
And I guess sort of related to that too is, I know that some people hypothesize that the skunk ape is different than Bigfoot. And I've heard something where people are like, oh, it's an escaped group of chimpanzees that live there. And I'm thinking that's impossible, because if you know the basic thing about how chimpanzees, their diet and how they sleep, chimpanzees don't sleep in the same nest. They change nest every single night, build a new one. So you're telling me that for 100 years, we haven't found a single chimpanzee nest in I understand that the Everglades are dense. And the second question is, what fruit are they eating in the Everglades?
True. Yeah, that's what I was that's where I thought you were going with that.
No, I mean, both of them are, but we'd see nests and know for a fact that they live here, because they nest every single night. So they're making probably thousands of nests in their lifetime.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. But also, another interesting thing to think about is that most cryptids were at one point just unidentified animals. They thought that the kangaroo, I think that they described it as a walking deer man, like the head of a deer, but the body of a man. So maybe Bigfoot is just something we don't know how to describe yet.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, a kangaroo is not a deer man. Like I
Not at all.
conjure completely different images when I think kangaroo.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I mean, they
Who
thought
knows?
the platypus was a hoax until
right. Yep. That's another good example.
they were sent platypi, or is it
Yep.
platypi? Or whatever.
Platypi.
The English science zoologists were sent their taxidermized bodies in the 1700s, I think it was, and they're all like, "This is a hoax."
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
no
yeah,
way
they-
this thing
yeah.
exists.
I
A venomous
remember-
mammal that lays eggs that has a duck's bill and a beaver's tail. No way.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, what kind of sicko just took all those animals and Frankenstein one to send to me? Like, I'd be upset.
Not fair.
Personally.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good examples. And I think a lot of things like that are still coming, in the future. We're going to discover things like, ancient civilizations will say that they saw, chariots in the sky followed by fire. Were they talking about meteors or comets, or like, what are we going to someday discover it? I think we will eventually discover a lot of these mysteries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how much goes unexplored, even,
Yeah.
on our own planet. Something about
For sure. Yeah. Even
how
like
much
when
of
I
the-
was. Yeah,
Go
when I
ahead.
was in college, I remember I took a biology class, and they're, still exploring the Amazon rainforest, and they're still finding like hundreds of new species of like microorganisms that we never knew existed, that, they feed off of the bacteria. They might have properties that we don't know about, like medicinal properties, or like anything, we were discovering, new life, new materials, all kinds of stuff. Like when we went to the moon and discovered like whatever some substance is there that China wants to start mining, or
It's like some
right.
hydrogen alloy, which
Yeah,
really
some-
because they're gonna ruin our like tides, and that's gonna be really bad.
I didn't think of that actually. That's a good point, because if you start taking mass off of the moon, that's going to affect things.
Yeah.
But
will
hey,
definitely-
capitalism, right? Who
Yeah.
cares?
God.
Yeah, that's a fun thought.
We'll do it too. I had this weird thought recently that, like, how in alien movies, like the aliens, they come to our planet and they invade us and they steal all our resources and enslave the species.
Mhm.
I feel like in the future that's going to be us, and all
Oh, yeah.
those alien movies are just like, we're going to do that to somebody else, and it's all just foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Once we run out of resources.
That's just
Yeah.
human nature. We're gonna exploit other people. We're not gonna get exploited.
Right.
No way.
Yeah, we've done it. We've done it for as long as history goes back. So
Who's to say we're gonna be around that long though? Mammals tend to go
True.
extinct after a few million years, so our time will be up.
true. But in a lot of alien stories, that's what prompts them to leave the homeworld in search of
That is
other
true.
resources. So
That's true.
dun dun dun.
Well,
We'll see.
with all that's happened this year, I wouldn't count
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, what's next? I'm not even
I mean,
gonna
they just.
surprised this time.
I mean, they just
Yeah.
opened up all 27 of the mummy sarcophagi. So, like,
oh
we're
god,
gonna get
yeah.
a mummy curse on top of everything in 2020.
Maybe 27 different ones.
Yeah,
You know?
27. Oh boy.
That's all we need right now.
All right.
Yeah.
They couldn't have.
Well,
like,
get
held
it
off
over with
for
quick.
too
Just
long.
open them all at once.
Yeah.
I actually just retweeted a video of them. They had like a big exhibition thing where they're just opening
Oh,
them
boy.
all. They're all lined
Oh,
up and just
boy.
opening them. You're
That
putting,
doesn't
like, 20
sound.
putting like 27
safe.
curses in one room. That's bad.
Yeah. And haven't there been instances of like those sarcophagi being like booby trapped and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Why
Oh
would you
yeah.
open those with people all around? Like, that sounds like a good way to. Yeah, it doesn't sound great.
Yeah. Not smart for a lot of reasons.
I'd watch it online, but I don't think I'd go there
Yeah.
the first time.
Oh, definitely not.
I know a few, like, didn't they open a sarcophagus like right before World War One and Two?
Yeah,
happened?
and a lot of people also die, but I think the explanation is like asbestos.
Yes, right. Yeah, some type of like bacteria or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still bad.
Yeah, it still adds to the like mystery of it. It's like, because King King Tutankhamun, when they opened his coffin, everyone around it died, but also like weirdly in like freak accidents and like I can't remember the details, but a lot of that, I don't know. I want to believe in it because it's just such a weird coincidence, you know?
Yeah.
I have a weird thought process when it comes to curses. I don't really believe in curses, but I also 100% believe in mummy curses.
Okay.
I feel like the only way you can actually curse people is you got to be like 100. You got to live like in the BC times, otherwise there's no curses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Steve
that's
has
when
these weird contingencies. Like you believe in you don't believe that there are ghosts, but you believe in haunted houses.
I believe in
or
haunted
something.
houses. I don't believe that ghosts just hang out like
Right.
they fly around, but I think if really bad things happen somewhere, they could be haunted. Even if
Right.
it's just in my head, like scary
Mhm.
stuff's gonna happen.
Yeah, a lot of people have different theories about that kind of stuff. Like, is our ghosts real, or is it just maybe like recorded, like the stone tape theory, where the energy is recorded and, you know, kind of replays itself, or like the emotions are captured and stuff like that.
That's
I
interesting.
honestly, yeah, I don't know. It's you know, it could be a combination of all of the above, or like people think poltergeists are really just like sort of psychic abilities manifesting in certain people, like under stress or whatever. So like it could be anything really. We have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Which just makes
what's
it
your
more
theory,
interesting.
Ryan?
Yeah. What's your theory?
Well,
Not to put you on the spot, but
I have a lot of hypotheses, but you know, what I'd like to believe is that, you know, we do have a soul, and, you know, even if it's just what we call the electrical impulses that our brain sends to, you know, the rest of our body, our thoughts, and, you know, the electricity that is making me move my mouth right now and stuff like that. You know, if the you know, physics is correct that energy can't be destroyed, it's like that energy gets converted to something else when we die. And I like to think that in some way, maybe not even consciously, but I do think our energy continues on in some way. And organically, it's like, you know, you go back to the earth and you become fertilizer for a tree or whatever.
Right.
I think in some way there's definitely some type of preservation of that energy, whether it be like reincarnation, I definitely think is a possible concept. I really don't know, but I'm open to, like, most theories people have run by me, I've been pretty open to. So
yeah.
So
As we said, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. I feel like people who say, no, this thing definitely can't exist, I think those people are, in a way, more ignorant than the people who believe in unicorns and Bigfoot, because it's like, how can you tell me? Have you been to the other galaxy? You can tell me there's no unicorns there?
Yeah. And that's just so much less fun.
Right. Yeah.
I do like to ask people
Anything's
if they
possible.
believe in like aliens and ghosts and stuff, because just because what it really tells you about them is, are they open-minded or not? Because if they
Exactly.
if they like they absolutely do not exist, like, even if you're skeptical, that's fine. That means you're open-minded
Right.
enough.
And I definitely am skeptical about everything pretty much. So
You have to be,
yeah. I like to tell people it's like having a healthy mix of extreme skepticism and like really open-mindedness, and you have to find like a balance. And everything's different too. It's like, you know, I can't say all ghosts are real, because it comes down to the experience, and, you know, everyone is different, I think. So
right.
Do you think there could be animal ghosts? I just thought of this. I really thought this through. I've heard stories of ghost dogs, but nothing else.
Yeah, I've heard stories of ghost cats and dogs and other animals, like at people's houses or even in hotels. Sometimes I've heard stories like that. So people definitely do that. And I think I definitely do believe, you know, animals, like anything else, if I have a soul, in my opinion, animals do too. because there's just, animals are special. They're intelligent, and they have feelings and stuff like that we might not understand, but I do think so. And I think people have had stories of like their animals coming back to visit them in a dream, or like I know some people who think that their animal has been reincarnated and come back to them in a new life. Like they'll find a new cat that looks exactly like their old cat that just wanders into their house one day and refuses to leave, stuff like that. Yeah. I definitely think there's evidence supporting that for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I mean, I haven't really thought about it much.
I like to think it. I have 3 cats, and the thought that they just might not exist ever again someday, it makes me really sad.
Yeah.
I definitely agree they have like souls, and the dogs have personalities. They all act differently and just are different. My dog's a real weirdo, so I would know if he got reincarnated.
Well, they say the dog takes after its owner, so.
We adopted him, though.
Checks out.
He's already old, so. He is just a weird. You met Casey. He's a weird boy.
Yeah, he's old, too.
He's really old. He's 13, but he's doing real well. Nothing wrong with him. Besides arthritis and being old, he's just functional. But he's just aging.
Yeah. Wow, that's sad to think about, but I think that animals and humans, even going back through history, have shared a bond that is very special. Even if it comes down to animals that were hunting animals, they still have been our companions. And I think there's a special bond between people and animals, and like the whole spirit animal thing. Like there's a lot of different aspects to it, and maybe you don't have an actual animal spirit, but like, you can embody the characteristics of certain animals. And, there's a lot of concepts that are really open, like pagan concepts of being able to, your intention and your energy and your vibes and all that stuff. I do believe in it. The older I get, the more I believe in it. I used to be like, there's nothing, but the more I learn about science and the more I experience and learn about the world, the more I'm like, there has to be something right. Even if it's not supernatural, there's a lot that we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
All right. Well,
thanks for coming on. It's been really fun.
Yeah, I know. I noticed we went over our time, and I'm sorry. People tell me I'm a talker. Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and it was really cool talking to you guys. I love hearing different people's theories and opinions, and just a really cool conversation. And when the episode goes up, I'll share it, and I'll post it on
we'll let you know.
Website,
so when your next book comes out, feel free to come back on. We had a great convo.
Awesome. Yeah, it's actually it's scheduled to release October 30th, and that's going to be the Folklore and Haunted Locations Guide for Massachusetts. I talk about like the Salem witch trials, all that stuff. Really good time.
That's gonna be awesome.
I'll send you guys a copy of that too, actually.
Oh, we'll gladly plug it. Thank you.
All right. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks
you guys
so
have
much,
a great
Brian.
day.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
All
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.
That was a really great interview with Brian Weaver from Ghost Quest.
Yeah, and
awesome.
I again really encourage all of you to go check out his latest book, which is called The Folklore and Haunted Locations Guide, New York. And you can also check out his website, ghostquest.net. So huge shout out to Brian. He's awesome.
Him. And if you have any ghost stories, submit them to him to make his job a little easier.
Yeah, and it was interesting. He was talking about too, like making his site a little bit of a community. So definitely encourage everyone to go check that out. And if you see any haunted locations,
we're gonna definitely link to it in the episode.
Whatever it's called. So this is something that actually popped into my head in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I often have dreams about dogs. They're great dreams. And I think we've talked about this before, my cockroach dog dream.
Yeah, we talked about that last
week. Yeah. I always have like really great dreams about dogs. And I don't remember exactly what this dream was, but it made this hypothetical pop into my head. So, Steve, here's the question.
I'm ready.
If you woke up in a dog's body, how would you convince your family that you were Steve?
See, this is a great question. I'm not 100% sure. But we need
Yeah.
to set up some ground like guidelines. I have my brain in a dog's body, so I can do all the critical thinking, right? But I don't have opposable thumbs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that your body, maybe you're dead or something. There has to be a reason why your family knows that you're not in your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's a hard one. I mean, honestly, the only one I could really think of in terms of with how amount of fine motor skills a dog has is probably take a shit on the floor while my parents are out and just spell I am Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good one because
that's the only I can really think of.
It's not like you can pick up a pen, right? It's not like, I mean, I've asked this to a few friends, and I had one friend say that they would knock a Scrabble board on the floor and like spell something out.
What are the how would you have all of the letters though that you need?
Yeah, and it's tough when you're a dog. You have to pick it up in your mouth. Can you use your paw? Do dogs' paws work like that? I don't know.
Well, they have mobility. I think you could write and like poop.
Yeah, and it'd have to be on the carpet so they would notice it.
Otherwise, they just step in it and ruin it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, other than writing it out, like, how could you let them know?
I don't know, like, what are you going to do? Spend a ton of time in your room?
Yeah, I was thinking, like, just never leave your bed. Just lay there.
They might just think that, like, oh, you're really sad. Or, like, oh, you're really sad that, like, Emmy's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think that the only way to do it is just write it and poop. What could you do? You'd have to do things that only you would do and a dog wouldn't normally do. But even so, it's assuming your parents draw the conclusion that this must be Emmy, not our dog.
Yeah. But then, do you really want them to know? Like, what do they do with that information then?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, that would really, if your dog, if Casey wrote out, like, I am just any random name on the floor in poop, like, you would be freaking out.
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I'd have no idea what to do. I mean, maybe I let them know and they at least like leave the TV on for me so I can do things besides just like clean myself and sleep.
That is so sad. I don't know who you would, are there doctors that do that?
I don't think so. I think that I would be like, you're just stuck as a dog. Would you be able to live like the life of a dog? Well, the other question that's important is, because you're stuck as a dog, is my lifespan now like 12 years, or is my lifespan now still a human lifespan, but it's in the dog form?
I think it's like dog's body, so dog's lifespan.
Ooh.
But I'm thinking like you could totally like be famous.
I could, but like
the most intelligent dog ever. Like you would get on Ellen, you would get on Dr. Phil.
Yeah, or honestly, maybe I'll just ride out the rest of my life as a dog, just pretty chill. Just eat food, sleep, hang out with other dogs.
I think that would be fun for a while, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know though. Like it would be fun for a while. It would get boring, but like I just feel like it's a really chill life.
Yeah, if you have people around you that love you, it's a pretty chill life.
Especially if there's other dogs involved, so you just have a playmate.
Yeah.
I'll just hang out with my brother's puppy. We'd be best buddies.
But then it's like, it's still like Steve's brain hanging out with the dog.
Yeah, it's true. Can I choose what kind of dog I am, or is it just random?
I think you just like wake up with a dog. Any dog.
If I could choose, I would choose like a Belgian Malinois, because those are working dogs, so at least I'd have a job. And I wouldn't be bored out of my mind.
Yeah.
At least I'd be like a bomb sniffing dog or something and have like high stakes and be mentally stimulated. Otherwise, it's I go on like a 30-minute walk a day. Great.
Yeah. Well, some dogs are like, this is totally off topic, but some dogs are so smart.
Oh, yeah.
You think about like those therapy dogs that can tell when someone's about to have a seizure or something.
Oh, yeah.
They have so many senses that we just can't even understand. It's crazy.
An awesome documentary on Curiosity Stream. Please sponsor us. As I always say. If you check out.
But how a plug for Curiosity Stream every episode until they sponsor us.
Until they pay me, until they at least give me $24 so I don't pay any money for it. Um, but I'm just putting it out there. If you sponsor us, I will write at least one review of a documentary a week and promote it. Okay? Just put it out there.
Right.
But there's this great documentary, highly recommend, called Man's First Friend. It's about the evolution of dogs alongside us, and it's so interesting. Bloodhounds, just their sense of smell is just infinitely greater than anything we could ever even dream of. They can track a scent for 4 days. Like, you can find a 4-day-old scent and follow the trail.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So imagine how much it must suck when you fart near one of them. They can track your scent for 4 days. Your fart fingers for a lot longer than that.
It's funny too, like, actually, I don't want to go down this tangent. Never mind.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about drug sniffing dogs.
Did I ever tell you about the bomb sniffing dog on the subway when I was eating a sandwich?
No.
There was this lab, and labs are just food obsessed. I wasn't eating a sandwich on the subway. I'd be filthy. But I was holding a sandwich I just bought, and there's this bomb sniffing dog that was a lab, and it just could not stop staring at me. I was like, oh my God, this guy think I'm a bomb? Because it was just staring at my feet and just staring at me like, please just drop your sandwich for me. Please. That's all I want in the world. I'm like, oh my God, why are you drawing attention to me? It's so stressful. The guy just yelled at his dog because I think he figured that I was holding an actual sandwich.
Yeah.
But it was just, I was like,
the dog was just probably hungry.
Yeah, it was just so stressful because the dogs would not leave me alone because I really wanted to just eat my sandwich.
That's funny. So what's your hypothetical?
All right, so this is one that my friend Ryan came up with this. So, Emmy, what if one day you woke up and everyone became Lord Farquaad and they just thought you were hideous, right? Everyone was Lord Farquaad. They all looked the same.
Lord Farquaad from Shrek?
Yeah, the little guy. Everyone turned into Lord Farquaad except for you, and everyone just thinks you're hideous. Everyone's like a 4-foot tall midget, and everyone's like, "Oh, Emmy's so gross. She doesn't look like us."
Oh my God.
But your friends are all still your friends. They're just all Lord Farquaads and all publicly think you're kind of ugly because you don't look like them.
So what's the question? What would I do?
What do you do? What would you do with your life if you're just the only non-Lord Farquaad in the world of Lord Farquaads? Everyone's 4 feet tall.
I think that I would have to try and cut my hair like him, dye it. Maybe I'll just try to turn into Lord Farquaad.
I mean, so you could, but my thought is, I never ever in the world have a chance of being in the NBA, but I'm over a foot. I'm almost 2 feet taller than Lord Farquaad. I could be the greatest basketball player at all time.
That's true. You would be a good athlete.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
So
would be a
this
good
is
athlete.
all of your friends and family are the same, but you just wake up and they look like Lord Farquaad.
They're all the same. They just all look like Lord Farquaad.
That's terrible. But you know what? I feel like, are you sure they would all think I was ugly?
Maybe they wouldn't all think you're ugly, but they all think it's weird that you don't look like them.
Yeah. Because in the modeling world, people who have very interesting or different features, like if you have a gap in your teeth or something like that, a lot of times people pick you up as a model because you look interesting.
Maybe you could be a model.
Yeah. This is my chance.
Yeah.
You can be in the NBA. I'll be a model.
Or I just also think that, I can't throw a tight spiral for the life of me, but I feel like I could be in the NFL. Just, actually, no. Because how could I throw to people that are that short? I was thinking, I could just throw, 50-50 balls in the air, and then no one would be able to jump and catch them.
I mean, I did track in college. I feel like I would be a lot faster than Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, I just think you could be the greatest athlete on the planet if everyone's 4 foot tall.
So maybe I'd be a runner and an Instagram influencer.
Yeah, you could probably do really well in all the Olympic sports, like volleyball, because you have to be really tall to play in the front in volleyball. So
that's true.
Unrelated to those hypotheticals, I actually just watched a wonderful movie that I wish I'd seen sooner before I wrote the list of great, awful horror movies. There's this Nick Cage movie on Hulu called Mom and Dad, and it's a horror movie about parents going crazy and wanting to murder their children.
Oh no,
It is-
that sounds awful.
It is so funny.
It's funny.
It is so overacted. Like Nick Cage overacts it so perfectly that it's so great. He's so bad. And I honestly was laughing the entire time. It's supposed to be a scary premise.
What's it called?
Mom and Dad. The
Okay,
acting
I'll
is
have to
just
check it out.
horrendous.
Uh-huh.
Dialogue makes no goddamn sense. And it is just incredible. And also these people are so durable.
Yeah.
Nick Cage at one point gets stabbed like 10 times, and then he just walks like into his leg, and he's just walking around fine, as if he didn't just get his like hamstring torn out by a knife.
Oh my god.
It is a
That
great.
reminds me, this has nothing to do with this, but that just reminded me of Sharknado. How do you feel about Sharknado?
I saw it once, but I don't really remember it. I think it's a
I
funny
love
concept.
Sharknado.
A shark tornado.
Yeah. Or like Snakes on a Plane.
I've been meaning to watch it. It's on HBO now, and I think
Steve.
I want to watch it. I just haven't had a chance.
That is a classic.
I know. I really need to. I'm excited to watch it at some point.
That is an absolute classic.
Speaking of snakes, do you ever watch the Anaconda movies?
No.
They're like horror movies about an anaconda in like South America.
I could have guessed that.
I guess they're like hunting an anaconda. I don't really remember. I remember being scared of it, and then when I was little, and then I watched it on like the Sci-Fi Channel. I was like, "Holy shit, this movie is so fake." That's another good one.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, those are our horror movie recommendations for the week. So,
Yeah, horror movie.
well, I guess we should wrap up now. Yeah, this was a fun episode. It was nice having our first interview. I thought it went incredibly well, and sorry if our part of the show is a lot shorter this time, but we just felt we had such a great interview with Brian that we didn't want to cut it short.
Exactly. And as always, check us out on misfitsandmysteries.com, where you can find our blog. You can also check us out on Twitter and Instagram at podcast_misfits.
Yeah.
And remember to check out Brian at ghostquest.net as well.
So make sure to follow Brian at ghostquest.net on Twitter and check out his YouTube channel. He makes some really cool content. He's a really great guy. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. And I guess next week's the last week for spooky season. So if you have any scary Halloween stories you want to send us, please do so. You can either email us, tweet it at us, fill out the contact form on our website, DM us on Instagram. We are on Instagram. We do not post a lot of content. We're going to try and fix that. We're also on YouTube, so you can subscribe there. So
we'll see you guys next week.
yeah, stay spooky.
Stay spooky, everybody.
Storybox